Hello, story lovers. Tonight we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe. Share it with someone who loves a powerful love story. And tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. The fluorescent lights of Denver International Airport buzzed overhead like trapped insects. Jasmine Parker pressed her fingers against her temples, trying to push back the headache that had been building for the past 16 hours. Her scrubs were still spotted with blood from the emergency surgery, hastily covered by a jacket she'd grabbed on her way out. The mountain lion's golden eyes haunted her thoughts. Wide with pain and confusion as she'd worked to repair the damage from the poacher's trap, another delay flashed across the departure board. She wanted to scream. The boarding call finally crackled through the speakers. Jasmine shouldered her battered messenger bag and made her way through the gate, her body moving on autopilot. First class. The words on her boarding pass still felt like a mistake, some cosmic joke after the week she'd survived. 3 animals lost, 1 saved. The math never balanced. She found row 2 and stopped. A man already occupied the aisle seat, his attention fixed on a tablet that glowed with charts and data she couldn't decipher. Everything about him screamed wealth. The kind of person who saw the world as something to own, to control, to profit from. Her jaw tightened. "I think you're in my seat," she said, her voice rougher than intended. He looked up. Dark eyes met hers, sharp and assessing. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt charged, electric. "I'm in Tua," he replied, his voice smooth and measured. He held up his boarding pass. Jasmine checked hers again. Same seat. "That's impossible." Apparently not. Something flickered across his face. Curiosity or annoyance. She couldn't tell. "I'm Gabriel Stone. Would you prefer the window?" The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it suggested it should. She slid past him without answering, the space too narrow, her shoulder brushing against his. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her exhausted body. As the plane began to taxi, Gabriel broke the silence. "You look like you've had a long day." 16-hour surgery, she said, staring out at the tarmac. A mountain lion caught in an illegal trap. I had to reconstruct most of her left hind leg. Will she survive? The question caught her off guard. Not will it survive, but she. If the infection doesn't set in, if the bones heal properly, if she remembers how to hunt after 6 weeks in captivity. Jasmine turned to face him. "There are a lot of ifs in my line of work." Gabriel set down his tablet. "Rocky Mountain Wildlife Sanctuary?" Her eyes narrowed. "How did you know that?" "I make it my business to know things." He paused, and something in his expression shifted, became almost vulnerable, especially when it comes to wildlife conservation. "My company develops monitoring systems, tracking technologies. We work with several sanctuaries. Let me guess. You sell them equipment they can barely afford, then write it off as charity for tax purposes." The words came out sharper than she intended, but she was too tired to care. Too tired to pretend that people like him didn't make her sick. People who treated conservation like a business opportunity, who measured success in profit margins instead of lives saved. Gabriel's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "You don't know anything about me? I know enough." Jasmine turned back to the window as the plane lifted into the sky. Denver fell away beneath them, the city lights giving way to darkness and mountains. They sat in silence for several minutes. Then Gabriel spoke again, his voice quieter now. "3 months ago, my sister was killed by a drunk driver. She was 26. She ran a wildlife rehabilitation center in Montana." Jasmine's breath caught. She turned slowly to face him. "Her name was Sarah," he continued, still staring at his tablet, though the screen had gone dark. "She spent her life savings on that center. Worked 8-hour days. Refused every dollar I tried to give her because she said I'd made my money in ways that hurt the world she was trying to save." His fingers tightened on the device. She was right. The plane hit turbulence. The cabin shuddered. "I'm trying to fix that now," Gabriel said, finally meeting her eyes. but I don't know how. I don't know where to start. I just know that everything I built feels meaningless without her here to fight me on it." Jasmine saw the grief in his face, raw and unguarded. It mirrored something inside her own chest. Something she'd been carrying since she was 17 and found her father's body in the garage. The exhaust still running. She'd spent 10 years trying to save things that couldn't save themselves, trying to balance a scale that would never even out. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "About your sister." "I'm sorry," Gabriel said. "About whatever made you look at me like I'm the enemy." The turbulence intensified. The seatbelt sign flickered on, but neither of them looked away. "Tell me about the mountain lion," Gabriel said softly. "Tell me if she's going to make it." Jasmine opened her mouth to answer, but the plane dropped suddenly, violently. The cabin lights flickered. Someone screamed. Gabriel's hand found hers in the darkness, his grip strong and steady. And in that moment, as the plane stabilized and the emergency lighting kicked in, Jasmine realized she was still holding on. The conference hotel in San Francisco smelled like expensive cologne and ambition. Jasmine stood in the lobby, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled clothes, her presentation notes scattered across her lap as she tried to focus. The flight had landed at 2 in the morning. She'd managed 3 hours of sleep. Gabriel had disappeared at baggage claim with nothing more than a business card pressed into her palm and 5 words that still echoed in her head. "I meant what I said." Now, staring at that card, she traced the embossed letters. Stone Technologies. A San Francisco address. He'd been coming home. Dr. Parker. She looked up to find a young woman in a sharp suit holding a tablet. "Yes. Mr. Stone asked me to deliver this." The woman handed her a sleek package. "He said you'd understand." Inside was a laptop, top of the line, and a note in sharp, angular handwriting for your presentation. "You deserve better than a dying battery," and crossed fingers. Jasmine's chest tightened. She should return it. Should walk away from whatever this was becoming. But her own laptop had finally died somewhere over Nevada, and her presentation was in 4 hours. She opened the computer. The presentation went better than she'd hoped. Sanctuary directors from across the country approached her afterward, asking questions, offering collaboration. One even mentioned Gabriel Stone's name, speaking about a new grant program for wildlife rehabilitation centers. "He's been quietly funding conservation work for months," the director said. "Nobody knows why. The man made billions in surveillance technology, and now he's trying to give it all away." Jasmine felt something cold settle in her stomach. Surveillance technology. That evening, she found Gabriel at a rooftop bar overlooking the bay. He'd texted her the location an hour earlier. The city sprawled beneath them, glittering and vast. "Thank you for the laptop," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Did the presentation go well?" It did. She studied his face in the dim light. "Tell me about your company." The truth this time. Gabriel's expression didn't change, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. "What do you want to know?" "I want to know how you made your billions." Jasmine leaned forward. "I want to know what your sister meant when she said you hurt the world." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he signaled the bartender for 2 drinks. When they arrived, he still hadn't spoken. "My technology tracks things," he finally said. "Animals, people, movements, patterns. I started with wildlife conservation applications. Radio collars that could monitor migration patterns, health metrics, population dynamics." He took a drink. "But the same technology that tracks a wolf pack can track a protest. The same algorithms that predict poaching can predict political dissent." "And you sold it," Jasmine said slowly, "to governments, to corporations, to anyone who could pay." Gabriel's voice was hollow. "I told myself the conservation work balanced it out, that I was doing more good than harm." Sarah saw through that lie immediately. The bay wind cut across the rooftop, sharp and cold. Jasmine wrapped her arms around herself. "She stopped speaking to me 2 years before she died," Gabriel continued. "Sent back every check, every gift. The last time I saw her, she told me I'd sold my soul for numbers in an account, and that one day I'd realize no amount of money could buy it back. Was she right?" "Yes," the word came out broken. And now she's gone, and I can't ever make it right with her. So I'm trying to make it right with everyone else. Jasmine wanted to hate him. Wanted to stand up and walk away from this man who'd profited from the same systems that destroyed the habitats she fought to protect. But she saw her own reflection in his guilt, her own desperate attempts at redemption through salvation. The mountain lion, she said quietly. The one I operated on. Her name is Ghost. I don't usually name them, but she was different. She looked at me during the surgery, even through the anesthesia, like she knew I was trying to help. My father killed himself when I was 17. I found him, and I've spent every day since trying to save things, because I couldn't save him. Gabriel reached across the table. His hand covered hers. We're both trying to resurrect the dead, he said. Yes, Jasmine whispered. We are. They sat in silence as the city pulsed below them. Then Gabriel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire body went rigid. What is it? A colleague. His voice had gone cold. Professional. There's a situation at your sanctuary. I have contacts who monitor wildlife facilities for security threats. Someone's been accessing your systems remotely. What kind of access? Medical records. Animal locations. Security schedules. Gabriel was already standing, typing rapidly on his phone. This pattern matches known poaching networks. They identify valuable animals, map the facility, then strike when defenses are low. Ghost. The name tore from Jasmine's throat. Mountain lion parts sell for thousands on the black market. She's still recovering. She can't defend herself. How fast can you get back to Denver? The last flight left an hour ago. Gabriel's eyes met hers, and in them she saw something fierce and determined. I have a plane. We can be there in 2 hours. You have a plane? Jasmine. His voice was urgent now. Do you trust me? She thought of Sarah, who'd refused to trust him, who'd died believing her brother was beyond redemption. She thought of Ghost, recovering in a cage, vulnerable and alone. I don't know, Jasmine said, but I don't have a choice. They were halfway to the airport when Gabriel's phone rang again. He answered, listened, and went pale. It's too late, he said, the words barely audible. They're already there. The private jet cut through the darkness at 500 miles per hour, but it felt like crawling. Jasmine pressed her phone against her ear, listening to Marcus, her assistant, describe the scene at the sanctuary. They cut through the north fence, went straight for the recovery ward. Ghost is gone, Jas. They knew exactly where to find her. What about the others? Her voice was steady, controlled. Everything inside her was screaming. They're safe. Whoever did this only wanted Ghost. Jasmine ended the call and stared at the cabin wall. Across from her, Gabriel worked 3 phones simultaneously, coordinating with people she couldn't see, speaking in clipped sentences about tracking protocols and intercept points. There's something you should know, she said abruptly. Gabriel looked up. Ghost wasn't just any mountain lion. She was pregnant. Jasmine's hands were shaking now. I discovered it during the surgery. That's why the recovery was so complicated. I was trying to save 2 lives, not 1. Jesus. Gabriel set down his phones. Why didn't you tell me? Because I don't tell anyone. Pregnant females are worth triple on the black market. The cubs can be sold to private collectors, exotic pet traders. She pressed her palms against her eyes. I've been protecting her in silence for 3 weeks. Someone found out anyway. Jasmine. Gabriel's voice was careful. How many people knew about the pregnancy? Just me and Marcus. We didn't even file it in the official records. We knew the risk. Then someone accessed your personal files, not just the sanctuary database. He reached for one of his phones again. Someone with very specific access to your private systems. That's impossible. I barely use technology. No cloud storage, no automated backups, your laptop. Gabriel's face had gone pale, the one that died on the plane. Did you have it connected to the sanctuary network? The realization hit her like a physical blow. When I left for the airport, I downloaded Ghost surgical notes to review on the flight. When you opened the laptop I gave you, did you transfer any files? Jasmine's mouth went dry. Everything. I transferred everything. The silence between them was deafening. You did this, she said slowly. You knew. You knew about ghosts before we ever met. No. Gabriel stood, his hands raised. Jasmine, no. I swear to you, I didn't know. Then explain how they got past every security measure we had. Explain how they knew exactly when I'd be gone, exactly where Ghost was located. Her voice was rising now. Explain how convenient it was that you sat next to me on that plane, that you made me trust you. The seat assignment was random. I didn't even know you existed until you sat down next to me. Was it random? Or did you use your surveillance technology to engineer the whole thing? Jasmine was on her feet now, backing away from him. You said it yourself. You track things, patterns, movements. How hard would it be to track one veterinarian traveling to a conference? Why would I do that? Gabriel's voice was raw. What possible reason would I have? Money. The same reason you've done everything else. She grabbed her bag. A pregnant mountain lion is worth hundreds of thousands to the right buyer. More if the cubs survive. I'm trying to help you. By giving me a compromised laptop. By tracking my every move. Jasmine's hands were shaking with rage. Your sister was right about you. You can't be trusted. You destroy everything you touch. The words landed like a slap. Gabriel flinched, and for a moment she saw real pain in his eyes. Then it hardened into something cold and distant. Fine, he said quietly. Believe what you want, but that animal is still out there, still in danger, and right now I'm the only person with the resources to find her. I don't want your help. Too bad. You're getting it anyway. He turned back to his phones. We land in 15 minutes. I have teams already tracking every vehicle that left the sanctuary in the past 3 hours. We will find Ghost. And then what? You sell her yourself? Gabriel looked at her then, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. It was pure fury, barely contained. Then I get her back to you, and I disappear from your life. Because you're right, Dr. Parker, I destroy everything I touch, including any chance we might have had. The plane began its descent. Jasmine gripped the armrest as Denver's lights appeared below them. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Security footage recovered. You need to see this. She opened the video file. The footage showed the break-in clearly. 3 people in tactical gear, moving with military precision. But as they loaded Ghost into a transport crate, one of them turned toward the camera and pulled down their mask. Jasmine's world tilted. It was Marcus. No, she whispered. But the evidence was irrefutable. Marcus, her assistant of 5 years, her friend, carefully closing the crate and speaking into a radio. The timestamp showed 30 minutes before he'd called to tell her Ghost was missing. Gabriel appeared beside her, looking at the screen over her shoulder. She felt him go still. I'm sorry, he said softly. Jasmine couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was seeing. Marcus had been with her the night Ghost came in, had helped her through the 16-hour surgery, had stayed late to monitor the recovery, had known exactly how valuable a pregnant mountain lion would be. We're landing, Gabriel said, and we're going to get Ghost back. But Jasmine, you need to understand something. Marcus didn't do this alone. Someone hired him, someone with significant resources and connections.
How do you know?
Because 30 seconds after that footage was recorded, your security system was wiped clean. Professional-grade cyber attack, military-level encryption. Gabriel's jaw was tight. Whoever is behind this has access to the same technology I developed. They're using my own systems against you. The plane touched down with a jolt that ran through her entire body. There's more, Gabriel said, his voice barely audible. I recognize the encryption signature. I know who bought this particular system. He met her eyes. It was sold 6 months ago to a wildlife trafficking syndicate I've been trying to take down. They're the same people who were targeting Sarah's facility in Montana. Understanding crashed over Jasmine like a wave. The night she died. The drunk driver. Wasn't drunk, Gabriel finished. The police investigation was closed too quickly, too neatly. I've spent 3 months trying to prove it was murder. His hands clenched into fists. And now they're coming for you too. The sanctuary was a crime scene now, wrapped in yellow tape and crawling with investigators. Jasmine stood in the empty recovery ward, staring at the open cage where ghosts had been. Blood stained the concrete floor. Not much, but enough to tell her the mountain lion had fought back. "She's strong," Gabriel said from behind her. "That's good. It means she's still fighting, or it means they hurt her trying to get her under control." Jasmine's voice was hollow. She'd been awake for 36 hours straight. Reality had taken on a dreamlike quality, edges blurred and unstable. Gabriel's phone buzzed for the 100th time. He'd been fielding calls since they landed, coordinating with law enforcement. Private investigators and contacts Jasmine suspected operated in legal gray areas. His resources were vast and apparently unlimited. "We got something," he said, pressing the phone to his ear. He listened, his expression darkening. "Where are you certain?" A pause. "No, don't move yet. Wait for my signal." He ended the call and turned to Jasmine. "They're at a private airfield 40 miles north. Small operation, minimal security. They're loading animals onto a cargo plane scheduled to leave the country in 2 hours. Ghost? The manifest lists exotic wildlife. No specifics. But the timing matches." Gabriel's eyes were hard. "Jasmine, listen to me carefully. What I'm about to suggest is illegal. If we do this, there's no going back. We both go to prison, or we both walk away. There's no middle ground. Tell me. I can have a team intercept that plane before it takes off. But it won't be law enforcement. The people I'm talking about are the same ones who helped me investigate Sarah's death. Former military, now freelance. They operate outside official channels. Mercenaries. Professionals who ask very few questions for the right price." Gabriel stepped closer. "The police can't move fast enough. By the time they get a warrant, process the paperwork, coordinate with federal agencies, that plane will be in international airspace. Ghosts will be gone forever." Jasmine's mind raced. Everything she'd built, everything she'd worked for, demanded she follow the law, report through proper channels, trust the system. But the system had failed Ghost, had failed her father, had failed Sarah. What would they do? She asked. Secure the plane, extract the animals, disappear before anyone can respond. Gabriel's voice was steady, but she heard the current of violence underneath. Some of the traffickers might get hurt. That's the reality of this choice. People could die. Yes. The word hung between them, brutal and honest. Jasmine closed her eyes and saw Ghost's face during the surgery, saw the cubs growing inside her, saw the future she'd promised to protect. Then she opened her eyes and looked at Gabriel. "Make the call." He held her gaze for a long moment, searching for doubt. Finding none, he dialed. "Go," was all he said before ending the call. Then he turned back to Jasmine. "They'll be there in 20 minutes. We should leave now if we want to arrive before it's over." "I need to be there, I know." They took Gabriel's car, a sleek black vehicle that drove itself while Gabriel monitored feeds from his phone. Jasmine watched the landscape blur past, trying not to think about what they'd just set in motion. "Why are you doing this?" she asked suddenly. "Really? What's in this for you?" Gabriel was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "Sarah used to tell me that every choice we make echoes forward, that the world we create tomorrow is built from the actions we take today." His jaw tightened. "I spent years making choices that echoed destruction, choices that prioritized profit over life. And now Sarah's gone, and I can't take any of it back. So this is redemption." "No." He glanced at her. "Redemption would require me to deserve forgiveness. This is just trying to make sure what happened to Sarah doesn't happen to anyone else. Especially not to you." The words settled over Jasmine like a weight. She thought about her father, about all the years she'd spent trying to save things because she couldn't save him, about how Gabriel was trying to save things because he couldn't save Sarah. "We're both ghosts," she said softly. "Haunting our own lives?" Maybe Gabriel agreed. Or maybe we're finally starting to live. The airfield appeared ahead, a collection of hangars and runways carved into empty land. In the distance, Jasmine saw the cargo plane, its engines already running. Around it, figures moved in the harsh floodlights. Gabriel's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and swore. "What is it?" "My team just arrived." "Jasmine, there are complications. The traffickers have heavy security. Military-grade weapons, body armor. This isn't going to be the clean extraction I promised."
Then what is it going to be?
"A war." Gabriel's voice was grim. "And we need to decide right now if we're willing to start it." Before Jasmine could answer, gunfire erupted across the airfield. The sharp crack of automatic weapons split the night. She watched in horror as figures scattered, taking cover behind vehicles and cargo containers. "Get down," Gabriel shouted, pulling her below the window line. The car's glass was bulletproof, but instinct drove them both to the floor. More gunfire, shouting, an explosion that lit up the night in orange and red. "We have to stop this," Jasmine said. "People are dying. People were always going to die." Gabriel's face was hard in the flickering light. "The moment we made this choice, we accepted that cost. The question is whether Ghost's life is worth it." Jasmine thought about Marcus, her friend, her colleague, who'd betrayed her for money. Thought about the trafficking syndicate that had murdered Sarah and was now trying to profit from Ghost's suffering. Thought about every animal she'd failed to save, every life that had slipped through her fingers. "Yes," she said, "Ghost is worth it, but not like this." She grabbed Gabriel's phone and dialed 911. "What are you doing?" Gabriel tried to take the phone back, but she twisted away. "Calling the police, reporting everything. The trafficking ring, the violence, all of it. They'll arrest us too. We orchestrated an armed assault." "I know." Jasmine's voice was steady. "But this stops now. Before anyone else dies because we thought we could take justice into our own hands." Gabriel stared at her, something like awe in his expression. Then he nodded and took out his own phone. "If we're doing this, we do it right," he said. "I'll call my lawyers, and I'll make sure everyone knows I've forced you into this. You were trying to save an animal. I'm the one who hired the mercenaries. Gabriel know?" "Yes." His voice was final. "You were right before. I destroy everything I touch. But maybe just once, I can be destroyed instead. Maybe that's the echo Sarah was talking about." Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The gunfire at the airfield had stopped, replaced by tense shouting. Gabriel's phone buzzed with an incoming call. He answered, listened, and a strange expression crossed his face. Relief mixed with disbelief. "They found her," he said. "Ghost? She's alive. Injured but alive. The cubs too." Jasmine felt something break inside her chest. Relief so intense it was painful. "The police are going to be here in seconds," Gabriel continued. "And when they arrive, I need you to tell them the truth. All of it. Don't try to protect me, Gabriel. Promise me, Jasmine. Promise me you'll tell them I did this alone." She wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but red and blue lights were already flooding the airfield, and there was no more time. "I promise," she lied. Because when the police arrived and separated them for questioning, when the detectives started asking who had orchestrated the assault on the airfield, Jasmine told them the same thing Gabriel did. They both said it was Marcus. They both said they'd come to stop him. And they both knew they were damning themselves with every word. 6 months later, Jasmine stood in the release enclosure and watched Ghost pace the perimeter. The mountain lion moved with careful precision, testing her repaired leg with each step. Behind her, 2 cubs tumbled through the grass, wrestling and learning the skills they'd need to survive. "She's ready," Marcus said from behind her. Jasmine didn't turn around. "You're not supposed to be here, I know." His voice was heavy with regret. "But I needed to see this. Needed to know she made it." Investigation had unraveled the trafficking ring completely. Marcus had worn a wire for 3 months, feeding information to federal agents, risking his life to expose every level of the operation. The betrayal had been real, but not in the way Jasmine had believed. He'd been working undercover since before Ghost arrived, trying to identify the people who'd killed Sarah Stone. "You could have told me," Jasmine said, finally facing him. "I wanted to. Every single day, Marcus's eyes were red-rimmed. But the deeper I got, the more dangerous it became. They were watching everyone connected to the sanctuary. If you'd known, if you'd acted differently, they would have killed you. So you let me hate you instead.
Yes.
The word was simple, final. Jasmine understood it, even as it cut. She'd spent 6 months believing her friend had betrayed her, only to learn he'd sacrificed everything to save her. The federal prosecutor offered you immunity, she said. You'll walk away from this. I know. Marcus looked past her to Ghost. But I'll never walk away from what I did to you. From the trust I broke, Jasmine wanted to forgive him. Wanted to say it was okay, that she understood. But the wound was still too fresh, too raw. I need time, she said finally. I know, Marcus repeated. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the tree line. Gabriel found her an hour later. He'd been coming to the sanctuary every week since the investigation ended, never staying long, never asking for anything. Just checking on Ghost, checking on Jasmine, then leaving before the silence between them could become too heavy. Today he looked different. Older, maybe, or just tired. The trafficking ring's last members were sentenced yesterday, he said, standing beside her at the fence. 20 years minimum for everyone involved, I heard. The judge asked me to testify about Sarah, about how the investigation started. Gabriel's hands gripped the fence. I told him about the drunk driving cover-up, about the months I spent trying to prove it was murder, about hiring people to do things the law couldn't. What did they say? That I was lucky I hadn't been charged as an accessory. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lucky. As if any part of this has been lucky. Jasmine watched Ghost. Watched the way the mountain lion's muscles coiled and released as she prepared to pounce on her cubs. The picture of deadly grace, of survival against impossible odds. I'm shutting down Stone Technologies, Gabriel said abruptly. Jasmine turned to face him. What? The company? Everything. I'm liquidating all assets and creating a foundation in Sarah's name. All the money, all the resources dedicated to wildlife conservation and rehabilitation. His eyes met hers. No surveillance. No tracking beyond what's necessary for legitimate research. Just trying to undo some of the damage I caused. Gabriel, that's billions of dollars. Yes, he smiled, sad and knowing. Turns out Sarah was right. Money can't buy back your soul. But maybe it can plant a few seeds for something better to grow. They stood in silence, watching Ghost teach her cubs to hunt. The afternoon sun painted everything gold and amber, turning the sanctuary into something out of a dream. I'm scared, Jasmine said suddenly. Of this, of us, of what we did to get here. I am too. We lied to federal investigators. Helped cover up an armed assault. We could have gone to prison, but we didn't. Gabriel's voice was soft. Marcus's testimony cleared us both. And maybe that's the point. Maybe redemption isn't about grand gestures or perfect choices. Maybe it's just about showing up every day and trying to do better than you did before. Jasmine thought about her father, about all the years she'd carried his death like a weight around her neck, about how saving Ghost hadn't erased that pain, hadn't fixed the broken parts of her. But it had reminded her that some things were worth fighting for, even when the fight left scars. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. How to be with someone when we're both this damaged. Neither do I. Gabriel reached out, and his fingers brushed against hers. Not quite holding hands, not quite pulling away, but I know I don't want to figure it out alone. In the enclosure, Ghost had stopped teaching. She stood perfectly still, her head raised, scenting the wind. Then she turned and looked directly at Jasmine through the fence. Their eyes met, predator and protector, both survivors of different kinds of violence. Ghost's tail flicked once. Then she turned away and called to her cubs, leading them toward the far corner of the enclosure where the gate to the wilderness stood waiting. She's ready, Jasmine whispered. Tomorrow. We'll release them tomorrow. All three. All three. Jasmine felt tears on her cheeks, though she didn't remember starting to cry. They'll have a chance now. A real chance to live free. Gabriel's hand closed around hers, properly this time. His grip was warm and solid and real. "So will we," he said. The next morning, Jasmine and Gabriel stood together in the cold pre-dawn darkness and opened the release gate. Ghost emerged first, her cubs close behind. The mountain lion paused at the threshold between captivity and freedom, her golden eyes scanning the forest ahead. For a long moment, nothing moved. The world held its breath. Then Ghost stepped forward, her repaired leg carrying her weight perfectly. She moved with the fluid grace of a predator who had remembered what she was meant to be. The cubs followed, tumbling over each other in their excitement, their small bodies already learning the rhythms of the wild. At the edge of the clearing, Ghost stopped one final time. She turned back toward Jasmine, and in that ancient gaze was something that might have been recognition, might have been gratitude, might have been goodbye. Then she was gone, disappearing into the trees with her cubs, leaving nothing behind but tracks in the frost. Jasmine felt Gabriel's arms slip around her shoulders. She leaned into him, letting herself be held for the first time in longer than she could remember. The weight she'd carried for 10 years hadn't disappeared. The ghosts of their pasts still haunted them both. But standing there in the morning light, watching the place where Ghost had vanished into her second chance, Jasmine felt something shift inside her chest. Not healing exactly. Not redemption. But possibility. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For sitting next to me on that plane." She turned to face him, seeing her own scars reflected in his eyes. "For being as broken as I am. For showing me that sometimes the only way forward is through the wreckage together." Gabriel's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't felt fall. "We're going to mess this up," he said. "Whatever this becomes, we're going to hurt each other and fail and have to start over 100 times. I know, and I'm still going to try anyway." His voice was raw with emotion. "If you'll let me." Jasmine thought about all the ways this could go wrong. About the damage they'd both done and the damage still to come. About how love had never been enough to save the people she'd lost before. But she also thought about Ghost, who had survived a poacher's trap and surgery and captivity and trafficking, who had fought her way back to freedom with 2 new lives growing inside her. If a mountain lion could rebuild herself from that much pain, maybe 2 broken people could too. "Yes," Jasmine said, and kissed him as the sun broke over the mountains. They stood there until the light had burned away the last of the darkness. 2 ghosts learning to become human again, 2 survivors building something new from the ashes of who they used to be. In the distance, somewhere deep in the wilderness, a mountain lion's scream echoed through the trees. It sounded like victory. It sounded like freedom. It sounded like a beginning. The end.